I had been looking forward to this vacation for months. After working 80-hour weeks at the startup for half a year, Stephanie and I desperately needed time together. Things had been tense between us lately. Our conversations shorter, our touches less frequent. I hoped this beach getaway would help us reconnect, rebuild what we once had. Yet something felt off. Stephanie shared few details about the trip, changing the subject whenever I asked specifics. As we pulled up to the luxury resort, a knot formed in my stomach. Little did I know I would soon discover there was no room booked for me at all. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button before we dive deeper into how this vacation turned my life upside down. I am Curtis, 35 years old, working as a software engineer at a promising startup in Seattle. The pay is decent, but nothing extraordinary, especially in a city with skyrocketing living costs. My wife Stephanie is 33, a senior manager at a prestigious PR firm catering to affluent clients. We met 6 years ago at a coffee shop where I spilled my latte on her designer blouse. Against all odds, she gave me her number after I offered to pay for dry cleaning. We married 3 years ago in a modest ceremony. From the beginning, there were clear differences in our lifestyles. Stephanie preferred high-end restaurants and exclusive clubs, while I enjoyed hiking trails and local diners. She spent generously on clothes and accessories, while I saved for retirement and emergencies. Our two-bedroom apartment reflected this contrast. Her walk-in closet housed outfits worth thousands, while my clothes occupied just half a dresser. Stephanie often attended networking events with clients and colleagues, all part of Seattle upper crust. When I joined these gatherings, I felt like an outsider. Her friends would discuss vacation homes and investment portfolios while I struggled to contribute meaningfully to conversations. They would glance at my department store clothes with subtle disdain, making comments like, "How refreshing to meet someone so unassuming." Stephanie never defended me during these interactions. Instead, she would quickly change the subject or physically distance herself from me at these events. Despite these challenges, I loved her and believed our marriage was worth fighting for. I had been saving all year, putting aside money from every paycheck to afford this beach vacation. I wanted to surprise Stephanie with the trip, but when I mentioned the idea, she immediately took over the planning. "Do not worry about anything," she assured me with a kiss on the cheek. "I will handle all the details. You just pack your clothes and be ready to relax." In the weeks leading up to the trip, I tried getting more information about our accommodations and activities. "Which resort are we staying at?" I asked one evening as Stephanie scrolled through her phone. "One of the best on the coast," she replied vaguely, continuing to type messages with a smile playing on her lips. "What is our budget for this trip?" I tried again a few days later. "Do not worry about the money," she said dismissively. "I have got connections." Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from names I recognized as her affluent friends. She would laugh at their texts, but quickly turn the screen away when I approached. The night before our departure, she finally revealed the full picture. "By the way, Jackson and Amanda will be joining us tomorrow," she mentioned casually while packing her fourth swimsuit. What I was taken aback. I thought this was our trip. Just the two of us. "Kyle and Lauren are coming too," she continued, as if not hearing my concern. "They got a great deal on rooms through Jackson's corporate account." I felt disappointment wash over me, but tried to maintain a positive outlook. Maybe this could be a chance to better connect with her friends. Perhaps they would see the real me, outside the awkward networking events. I packed my single suitcase while Stephanie filled 2 large ones with outfits for every possible occasion. The next morning, we drove 4 hours to reach the coastline. As we approached our destination, the landscape transformed from dense forests to pristine beaches, and finally the gleaming white structure of Ocean Bluff Resort came into view. The entrance featured marble fountains and exotic palm trees. Valets in crisp uniforms rushed to take our modest sedan as luxury vehicles lined the circular driveway. My stomach tightened. This place was clearly several levels above what I had budgeted for. How could Stephanie afford this? Even with her salary, this seemed excessive. "Welcome, Jackson," booming voice greeted us in the lobby. He wore designer sunglasses and a watch that probably cost more than my annual salary. Amanda Eyre kissed Stephanie while giving me a quick nod. Kyle and Lauren arrived moments later, both looking like they had stepped out of a fashion magazine. Curtis, man of the hour. Jackson clapped my shoulder too hard. "Glad you could make it to join the elite club." The words seemed friendly, but his tone carried something else entirely. Stephanie has been telling us how excited you were for this trip, Amanda added, with a smile that did not reach her eyes. It must be quite a change from your usual accommodations. Stephanie quickly integrated into their circle, discussing people and places I had never heard of. They laughed at inside jokes, while I stood awkwardly to the side, feeling increasingly isolated in the opulent surroundings. The group moved toward the oceanfront deck for welcome drinks while I remained in the lobby, realizing I had not yet received my room key. I approached the marble front desk where a receptionist in an immaculate uniform greeted me with a practiced smile. "Good afternoon, sir. How may I assist you? I need to check in." The reservation should be under Curtis and Stephanie Morgan. Her fingers tapped efficiently across the keyboard. "I have a reservation for Stephanie Morgan in our Ocean View suite," she confirmed. "But I am not seeing your name on the reservation, sir. There must be some mistake," I insisted. "Could you check again? Maybe it is under a different room." She searched thoroughly, her expression growing increasingly apologetic. "I am sorry, sir. I do not see any reservation under your name in our system. Perhaps your wife made separate arrangements." A cold sensation spread through my chest. I thanked the receptionist and walked outside to the deck where Stephanie was laughing with her friend's champagne glass in hand. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the scene like a perfect postcard of happiness that I was somehow excluded from. "Stephanie," I said quietly when I reached their table. "Can I speak with you for a moment? There seems to be a problem with my room reservation." She looked momentarily flustered before composing herself. "Oh, about that," she said with feigned surprise. "I thought you understood the arrangement. I am sharing a room with Amanda. Girls' trip within the couple's trip, you know." The others watched our interaction with poorly disguised interest. "No, I did not know that," I replied, struggling to keep my voice level. "Why would I assume I would not have a place to stay on our vacation? I must have forgotten to mention it," she said with a dismissive wave. "You can book a room now, right? The resort must have availability." I turned away and returned to the front desk, where the receptionist regretfully informed me that the resort was completely booked for a corporate retreat. With a sinking feeling, I called several nearby hotels only to discover that a regional festival had filled accommodations within 20 miles. When I returned to the group, Stephanie was deep in conversation with Amanda, both giggling as they scrolled through something on a phone. I cleared my throat to get their attention. "The resort is fully booked. So are all nearby hotels." "That is unfortunate," Jackson chimed in with a smirk. "Perhaps you could find a budget motel in the next town over." "Not everyone is cut out for Ocean Bluff," Amanda added with a theatrical sigh. "We only reserved rooms for people who matter," Kyle said, looking directly at Stephanie rather than me. Lauren raised her glass in a mock toast. "We are the only important people here, after all." What cut deepest was not their comments but Stephanie's reaction. She did not defend me. Instead, she laughed along, clinking her glass with Lauren. In that moment, I saw everything clearly. This was not an oversight or a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. "Can we talk privately?" I asked Stephanie, my voice now eerily calm. She reluctantly followed me to a relatively quiet spot near the beach entrance. "What is going on, Stephanie? Did you intentionally not book a room for me?" Her facade finally cracked. "You do not understand my position, Curtis. My friends, they are connected to everyone who matters in my industry. So your career justifies humiliating your husband. You have always been an anchor dragging me down at social events," she hissed. "Always saying the wrong things, wearing the wrong clothes, not understanding how important appearances are. Did you even want me on this trip at all?" I asked, the truth dawning on me. "Honestly, no. I hoped you would catch the hint when I mentioned sharing with Amanda. I thought you would offer to stay home. 3 years of marriage. And this is what it comes down to. Your social status. You have no idea how hard I have worked to build these relationships," she snapped. "I need this time with them, without having to worry about you embarrassing me. I need space to advance my career through these connections. You could have just said that instead of whatever this is. Would you have understood? Would you have stepped aside gracefully?" She did not wait for my answer already. Walking back to her friends, leaving me standing alone as the ocean breeze turned suddenly cold against my skin. I took several deep breaths, watching the waves crash against the shore. A strange calm settled over me as I walked back to the group, who were now ordering appetizers and more drinks. "I have made a decision," I announced, my voice steady and clear. "If there is no place for me here, then I will leave. Their expressions ranged from surprise to smug satisfaction. Stephanie stared at me, mouth slightly open, perhaps expecting an outburst or pleading. Instead, I simply turned and walked away. I heard her call my name once, but I did not look back. At the parking lot, I retrieved my suitcase from our car and transferred it to a rental. The attendant seemed confused, but processed the paperwork without questions. As I drove away from Ocean Bluff Resort, my phone began buzzing with messages and calls from Stephanie. At first, I glanced at them. "Where are you going? Stop being so dramatic. You are embarrassing me. Please come back so we can talk." After the 20th call, I turned off my phone. The coastal highway stretched before me, and I drove without a destination in mind. The initial shock and hurt began to transform into something else, a sense of liberation. For the first time in years, I did not have to worry about fitting into Stephanie's world or measuring up to her friends' standards. I drove for nearly 2 hours following the coastline as the upscale resorts gave way to smaller towns. When I spotted a sign for Harbor Point Village pointing down a side road, I followed it on impulse. The narrow street wound through pine trees before opening up to reveal a small fishing community nestled around a natural harbor. Unlike the manufactured perfection of Ocean Bluff, Harbor Point felt authentic. Weathered boats bobbed in the bay fishing nets, dried on wooden racks, and the air carried the scent of salt and fresh catch. A small inn with a hand-painted sign reading Seaside Lodge caught my eye. It was a 2-story wooden building with a wide porch facing the water. Inside, I met Frank, the 70-year-old owner with sun-weathered skin and bright blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He listened attentively as I explained my situation, deliberately leaving out the more painful details. "Marriage troubles, eh?" he said knowingly, after I finished my sanitized version. "Been there myself 40 years ago. Sometimes people need space to figure things out." He handed me a key to a simple but clean room overlooking the harbor. That evening I joined Frank and some local fishermen at the village pub. They welcomed me, without questions or judgment, sharing stories of the sea and local history. When I mentioned my background in software engineering, Tom, one of the younger fishermen, eagerly asked for help, with a website he was trying to build for his charter business. The next morning, Frank invited me to join a fishing expedition. Despite my complete inexperience, the crew showed remarkable patience, teaching me the basics with good-natured teasing. By afternoon, I had caught my first fish and learned how to properly clean and fillet it. My hands were blistered and my face sunburned, but I felt more accomplished than after any coding marathon. At sunset, I borrowed a camera from Frank and captured the golden light playing across the harbor. Photography had always been a hobby I had neglected due to lack of time. Now I lost myself in framing shots of working boats, weathered faces, and dramatic skies. Frank displayed some of my better photos in the lodge lobby, and to my surprise, guests and locals commented positively on them. By my third day in Harbor Point, I had established a comfortable routine far removed from my life in Seattle. I would help Frank with lodge maintenance in the mornings, join fishing trips, or explore the coastline in the afternoons and edit photos in the evenings. I had turned my phone back on, but kept it on silent, noting the decreasing frequency of Stephanie messages without reading them. That afternoon, the harbor master announced a weather alert. A tropical storm had changed course unexpectedly and was heading directly for our section of coastline. The fishing community immediately began preparations, securing boats, boarding windows, and stocking supplies. I volunteered to help wherever needed, grateful to these people who had accepted me so readily. While helping board up the windows of the general store, I overheard worried conversations about the luxury resorts up the coast. "Those places are not built for storms like this," the store owner said. "All glass and show. First real wind will cause havoc." A sudden realization hit me. Stephanie and her friends were still at Ocean Bluff, probably unaware of the approaching danger. Despite everything, I could not ignore their potential peril. I mentioned my concerns to Frank, who immediately understood. "Take my truck," he said, tossing me his keys. "Highway might already be jammed with evacuees. You know the back road along the ridge." The drive back to Ocean Bluff took longer than expected. Trees had already fallen across portions of the road, and rain began to pelt the windshield in heavy sheets. By the time I reached the resort area, conditions were deteriorating rapidly. The main entrance to Ocean Bluff was chaotic, with guests trying to leave and staff struggling to maintain order. I spotted them in the crowded lobby. Stephanie Jackson, Amanda Kyle, and Lauren, looking distressed amid their designer luggage. The power had already gone out, emergency lighting casting harsh shadows across the marble floors. From snippets of conversation, I gathered that all flights were canceled and the main highway was now closed due to flooding. I could have turned around. I could have left them to figure it out themselves. After all, they were the only important people, as they had so clearly stated. But something in me could not do it. I approached the group, noting their shocked expressions when they recognized me. Curtis Stephanie looked like she had seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" "There is a safe place about 30 minutes from here," I said simply. "If you want to come, we need to leave now." No one spoke much during the tense drive back to Harbor Point. The storm intensified around us, wind buffeting the truck and rain, reducing visibility to mere feet. Stephanie sat beside me while her friends crammed in the back seat, their designer clothes soaked and their expressions subdued. "How did you know about the storm?" Amanda finally asked, as we navigated a particularly rough stretch of road. "The locals know their weather," I replied. "They have been preparing for 2 days, and they will just take us in." Jackson sounded skeptical. "They are good people. They help each other. And strangers too, apparently." When we arrived in Harbor Point, the community had transformed the town hall into an emergency shelter. Frank greeted us at the door, eyebrows raising slightly at the sight of my companions, but warmly ushering everyone inside without comment. The hall was filled with residents and stranded travelers sharing food, blankets, and stories as the storm raged outside. "Your husband has become quite popular around here," Frank told Stephanie as he handed her a cup of hot coffee. "Hardest working visitor we have had in years, and his photographs are impressive too." Stephanie looked at me with confusion, as if seeing a stranger. Her friends huddled in a corner, clearly uncomfortable in their sudden dependence on the hospitality of people they would normally overlook. As the night progressed, the storm reached its peak. Windows rattled and the roof creaked ominously, but the sturdy old building held firm. News trickled in about severe damage to coastal properties, including significant structural damage at Ocean Bluff Resort. In the early hours of the morning, with the worst of the storm past, Stephanie found me keeping watch near the door. She sat beside me, her designer clothes replaced with borrowed fishing sweaters and jeans. "I am sorry," she said after a long silence. "For everything." "I believe you," I replied. "But I am not sure it matters anymore. All this time I thought success meant being accepted by people like them." She gestured toward her sleeping friends. "I was so wrong." "We both made mistakes," I acknowledged. "I tried to fit into your world without asking if we still wanted the same things." The conversation flowed more honestly than it had in years. We talked through the night about our different values, expectations, and visions of the future. By sunrise, we had reached a painful but necessary conclusion. We had grown in opposite directions, and no vacation or storm shelter epiphany could bridge that fundamental gap. During the following days, as roads cleared and communications were restored, Stephanie and her friends witnessed the fishing community rebuilding after the storm. Even Jackson pitched in to help repair the damaged pier, working alongside the weathered fishermen he would have dismissed days earlier. Before they departed for the city, Stephanie took my hands in hers. "I will start the paperwork when I get back," she said softly. "You deserve someone who appreciates you for who you are, not who they want you to be." I nodded, feeling sadness but also an unexpected peace. "And you deserve someone who shares your ambitions." We both deserve that chance. As I watched their taxi drive away, Frank stood beside me. "Hard decisions never feel good in the moment," he observed. "But sometimes they are the right ones anyway." In the months that followed, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I extended my stay in Harbor Point, helping Frank modernize the lodge booking system and creating a website showcasing local businesses. My photography improved with daily practice, each image capturing the authenticity and resilience of coastal life. I maintained minimal contact with Stephanie during our divorce proceedings, which she handled with unexpected grace and fairness. Through mutual friends, I heard she had taken a step back from her social climbing, reassessing her career priorities and personal relationships. I started attending photography workshops in nearby towns, connecting with artists and creative professionals who valued skill and vision over status. I developed friendships based on shared interests, rather than social obligation. For the first time in years, I felt comfortable in my own skin, without the constant pressure to be someone else. 6 months after that fateful vacation, I held my first photography exhibition at a gallery in the city. I titled it "Weathering the Storm," a collection of images documenting Harbor Point and its people. Frank and several fishermen made the trip to attend, looking amusingly out of place among the urban art crowd, but carrying themselves with unshakable confidence. To my surprise, Stephanie also attended. She viewed each photograph carefully, lingering on an image of Frank standing proudly beside his weather-beaten lodge. "You found where you belong," she said, when she finally approached me. "I am still looking, I think. But seeing your work helps me understand what I should be searching for." As we parted with a brief friendly hug, I realized that sometimes you have to lose what you thought you wanted to discover what you truly need. The painful vacation that ended my marriage had ultimately guided me to a more authentic life. The storm that threatened destruction had instead cleared the path forward. In the end, the most valuable things in life are not luxury resorts or social status, but the genuine connections we form with others, and the courage to be ourselves even when it means walking away. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice that ultimately led you to a better place? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more life stories. Share this with someone who might need encouragement to follow their authentic path, even when it seems uncertain. Thank you for joining me today, and remember that sometimes our greatest disappointments become our most important turning points.